Mold is nature's recycling system. There are over 1 million different types of mold. It's found everywhere around the world. It is a natural part of life. It's part of the fungi kingdom.
You're listening to the She Renovates podcast. You're listening to She Renovates, the podcast for women who want to renovate to create an income and a life they love.
Hello, everyone. It's Bernadette back with another episode of She Renovates. And the topic of today's episode is mould in homes. And I have Norah Copithorne, a passionate founder of Nature's Defence. What began as a hobby for Norah soon became her mission to help people understand mould, its impact, and the power of natural solutions that work. With dedication to sustainability and empowering others, Norah has made her life's work to educate people and empower them to become their own mould authority. We love that, Norah. She does this by working with businesses that embrace the Nature's Defence protocol and process to solve mould problems for their clients. So, hello.
Hello, Bernadette.
Thanks for being on today. And it's this is a topic that I personally don't know enough about. I've interviewed a few people on mould, still really haven't got my head around the how you deal with it. And my concern is that I am coming across more and more properties that have a lot of mould. I think I spoke to you, I met with a friend in Melbourne who had been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and it turned out that she had aspergillus in her lungs. Then I went and looked at another house at someone's request in Brisbane. Their basement was full of mould. And now today I had some students talking about a house that they looked at in Balaclava in Melbourne, and that was mouldy. So you've come at a very opportune time.
Well, I must say thank you and congratulations to everyone that is part of your community, because I really love the concept of what you're doing.
Thank you for that, Norah. I really appreciate that.
So let's take a look at mold. And
Yeah.
maybe we have this conversation, Bernadette, to cover off what mold is.
Yep.
What it does.
Before we do that,
yeah,
do you want to just give us a little bit of your background? I know that I read that out in the promo, but we really always like to know, a bit more than the professional bio, more about the person.
Oh, yes, we can be people. So
Yeah.
I did not start out wanting to be a mold authority. That was not my life's ambition. And I had a friend in Sydney about 15 years ago that lived in a very elegant suburb in a beautiful home. And we used to do DVD nights in this home, and we'd bring friends over, and it was a ritual, right? Every Sunday you go and have dinner and conversation and have a laugh. DVD nights trailed away because my friend became very, very ill. And nobody could figure out why or what it was. It took about 12 months for them to be diagnosed. And I, like you, knew nothing about mold, right? Hadn't got a clue. And it turned out that this individual was very sensitive to mold. They had to leave their home. They had to change their work, and they ended up buying a place interstate. So to say the impact was significant is an understatement. And when I came across this protocol and this solution, I really wished I'd known about it then, because it would have been so helpful. And I took a look. It did start out as a hobby around 5 years ago. And I came across this and I thought, gee, everybody should know about this, of course. And you think it's going to take a month and you're going to be done. Oh, the innocence. So,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. The gentleman that is the brain behind this protocol that put it together is called Dr. Edward R. Close, and he's based in the US, and he's a rather brilliant individual who's been 30 years a remediator, and his hobby is quantum physics. You've got to love this, right? And he's written up mathematical proof that actually creates stability in the chaos theory. And this beautiful soul wrote the book. I read the book. I thought, I can't start a business on a book. I just can't. So I reached out and found him through Facebook. And he's been mentoring me so sweetly and so kindly. And I've also done additional mold courses because I'm not a scientist. I'm a talker. I'm a connector. So over the last 4 years, I've done a lot of groundwork with this passionate hobby that I had. And about 12 months ago, I met up with a very clever marketer who said, Norah, if you want this to be a business and go places, you must treat it like a business. You need a new name. You need a new this. The protocol's fine. The things you use are fine, but you must do this, this, and this. And I went, oh no, I don't want to do this. I'm so afraid. You know, when you go into business, right? It's a great leap of faith. So
I know. Yes.
I basically held my nose and plunged into the pool of business and the passion of mold, because Bernadette, mold is fascinating. Mold is so intriguing. You wait until you'll fall in love with it too. And when you understand it, it's not intimidating.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this.
So,
and you're absolutely in the right place, because we renovators, women renovators, also have that entrepreneurial gene. So while your business is mold, our business is renovating. And so we understand I guess, the leap of faith and how much you do have to put yourself out there. And so, yes, you're in the right place.
Well, and it's lovely to be here, I have to say, because after doing this, we're just celebrating our 12th month now in this new Nature's Defense. And we're now engaging with other mold remedialists that are taking a look at the protocol. Previously, they would have dismissed a plant-based solution, but our results are compelling.
Amazing.
I know, it's so good, right?
Exactly. Tell me more.
Okay, so here's the short form. Our protocol uses a special diffuser with a plant-based oil, like it's 100% pure plant oil. Mm-hmm. And the diffuser only uses oil. It's special. I bring it in from the US. You put it in a 90 square foot area and you let it run for 24 to 36 hours until the bottle of oil is complete. And the bottle of oil, are you ready for it? The bottle of oil is enormous, Bernadette. It's this big.
Wow.
It is a 15 mil bottle of oil. Yep. And the beauty of it, the reason everything works, the magic's in the diffuser, because the diffuser releases it in the right viscosity and the right intensity that it goes and surrounds the mold spore. And it takes the time to actually eat the cell wall of the mold spore. The dead mold spore falls to the surfaces, and even dead mold spore is a health issue, and then it needs to be wiped up. So it's a two-step process. It's 24 to 36 hours for every 90 square meter space. It's plant, so it's no secret here. Majority of it is clove oil, because clove oil is...
What? I was just thinking that, because that's what they say to do if you've got mold in your bathroom.
No, just don't put it with vinegar, okay?
Why is that?
Well, vinegar is for one thing, the odor will stay for a while. And vinegar is a cleaning agent, but it doesn't necessarily pick up mold spore. So one of the things that I did was to create and work with very clever people to create a surface liquid
Yeah.
that is also infused with oils that lifts the mold spore. And we've done the tests on this, and I'm very happy with the results from it. So
Yeah.
this two-step process, we've got 30 businesses now around Australia that are using the protocol. And we deliver this solution primarily to cleaning businesses, but we do it now to builders. And we do it to people like yourself and your teams that are working on a project
Yeah.
that they need to use it personally.
Yeah.
So we provide kits and also education on mold so they know what they're doing, and support. Because like anything else, it's easy when you know how.
Yeah. Exactly. And so can we just go back to sorry, I did mess up our routine a bit.
That's
Can
okay.
we just go back to, about what is mold and
Sure.
yeah.
So mold is nature's recycling system. There are over 1 million different types of mold. It's found everywhere around the world. It is a natural part of life. It's part of the fungi kingdom. And mold spores are very, very, very tiny. They're measured in microns, and a micron is 1/1,000,000th of a meter.
Wow.
So one mold spore, if you look at one strand of hair, that would be 70 to 80 microns. One mold spore is 2 to 4. That's how small it is. Now, it feeds on humidity and dust. When you have humidity or water and dust together for 48 hours, you will have mold, period. So, you know, the towel you've left in the bathroom, the leak you have in the roof, the drainage that's an issue, the guttering that isn't fixed, all of those water events will create mold if they're left untouched or undried. To deal with mold, you must have a dry area, a dry space. Okay. And it can grow very quickly in that 48 hours, and it will continue to grow as long as there's humidity in the air. Now, the humidity is 60%.
Okay. Okay.
Sydney is the mold box.
I know. Yes.
It's remarkable, right? And this, not to scare people, but mold has a couple of quirks to it, right? We don't always see or smell mold.
No.
When you won't always see it or smell it. 1 in 4 people, 24.5% of the population, are actually missing the DNA in their bodies that allow them to deal with the inflammation from mold. Because for these people, when they go into a moldy environment, their immune system tries to attack the mold and deal with it, but it can't. It's not set up to. I think your lovely lady that you were referring to, your friend, is one of those 1 in 4 people whose body isn't equipped to deal with mold. Now, the challenge with that, if you look at that mom, dad, and 2 kids, often it's mom that's susceptible. And you look around, everyone else is healthy. There's not an issue at all. So then mom says, well, okay, what do? I'm not well. Let's go to the doctor and let's get this sorted. The doctor will take a look at the condition and they can say, oh, well, let's give you antidepressants. And antidepressants have antihistamines in them. And it will for a small period of time seem as though that's the solution. And it leads the whole health inquiry down a different path. So I deal with building issues, and I'm very aware of the health issues.
Okay.
So with mold, it's an airborne spore, and even dead mold spore is an issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got air spore and you've got surface spore. And people, the conditions that they can present when they're susceptible to mold: brain fog, depression, anxiety, migraines, MS, cancer, eczema. The list goes on and on and on and on. There's over 150 white papers or case studies about the effects of health and mold. And in 2009, the World Health Organization wrote the first paper that acknowledged the health issues around it. And there's a gentleman in the States called Dr. Richie Shoemaker, who is the first GP that identified that mold was the culprit behind something called CIRS, chronic inflammation response system. So what happens is your immune system gets hijacked. And because it's trying to solve an impossible problem, it falls down on the day job of keeping you well. Okay. So when this happens for people, they're in trouble. And the place to go is to an integrative health professional because they're aware of mold. They can do a blood test to identify it. It's not standard. And God love our normal GPs. They do the very best they can. Many of them are not educated on mold, and our system isn't set up yet to detect it, our medical system. So does that make sense?
It does. It does. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Where do you want to go from here, Bernadette?
So I guess the thing that really interests me, it's interesting that you say that you talk about mold in towels, because one of the things, I hate wet towels, and one of the things that I like to put in my projects is a heated towel rail, particularly in family homes, because, you know, lots of towels, kids don't put them out to dry and not a good thing. So now I'm thinking that's a well-being addition as well as, you know, convenience.
Absolutely. And from a building perspective, you probably know this, and forgive me if I'm stating the obvious because I'm not a renovator as such, but there are a few little things that you can do and check on. One is that the ventilation in the bathroom actually goes to the outside. It's a small point, but don't put it in the roof void. And
Absolutely.
when there's an issue with people hesitating to turn the fan on in the bathroom, you can actually wire it so that every time you turn the light on, the fan goes on.
We definitely do that because I know some, you know, like people don't like the cold breeze that it creates, but yeah, absolutely. And so when, like, often we will come to properties where the mold is, it may not be visibly extensive, but is extensive because you can smell it.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Like,
There's a couple of different ways you can deal with it. So you can do testing. There's surface testing and air testing that can be done. It's usually around $200 per test. You need to do at least 3, and you would get an inspection done of the property to identify where the cause of the mold is. Once you've got the inspection done and you understand what the cause is, you would go around and do the treatment. Now, our protocol is brilliant to kill the mold. Always, always, always the source of the mold needs to be addressed, right? So the first thing you would do is identify, is it a major repair? Is it a drainage system? Is it a re-roofing? Are people living there? Because if people are living there and it's a health issue, you want to use this protocol right away, because we don't want anyone, you know, children, the elderly, the compromised immune systems. We don't want anyone living with mold because it's an airborne spore. It'll go into the blood, it'll go into the lungs, and then it'll go into the bloodstream. So when you identify that there's an issue in the property, you ask a few questions and see, is it an historic event? Has there been a flood? Has there been issues? How long has it been there? You identify what the resolution to the issue is, and you would get either you get a kit so that you can do a DIY. And I appreciate the fact that your business ladies are very capable. Or you would get someone to come in and do the work for you. And they will diffuse the home and they'll do the wipe down. Because when you do the wipe down, it's every surface in the room, right? So brilliant if it's empty. That's a preferred option.
Yeah. So sometimes, like if you've got a really moldy bathroom, that
Mhm.
it seems like the mold has penetrated into the sheeting. Does that mean that the sheeting has to come off? I'm assuming it does.
9 times out of 10, when you've got a moldy environment, you remove the items that are full of mold. So
Yeah.
it does depend whether they're porous, semi-porous, or non-porous.
Yeah.
So, you can wipe tile down, you can wipe glass down. It would be something that every case, and this is the really interesting part with mold, right? Every home is unique. So
Yeah.
the proper protocol would be to go and take a look, have a discussion, identify what needs to be removed, and use your moisture meter, use your thermal imaging to identify if it is a leak behind the tiling. And wet areas are notorious, right? Kitchens,
Yeah.
bathrooms, laundries. And a
Yeah.
lot of the time, the water resistant seal in the bathrooms, if an apprentice puts that down and they don't know what they're doing, it's an issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your ladies know all about that, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if you find mold, you you obviously get it tested.
Well, and okay, so here's devil's advocate. Testing costs money.
Yeah.
So depending on what the purpose, if you have to have it tested and cleared for sale, get it tested and get it treated.
Yeah.
If it's a living circumstance where you just say, look, I know I have mold, get a kit, use the protocol. Save the money, put it into a kit, fix it. Like just deal with the problem and fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that is to wipe down the surfaces if they're non-porous and set the diffuser going and that will kill it in
The air.
24 hours.
24 to 36, 1 bottle of oil.
Okay. And for 90 square meters and then wipe all the surfaces down.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And you can live in the home while this is being done. Okay, we put dogs, cats outside of the area. People can go and use the kitchen or the bathroom 15, 20 minutes, no problems at all. Everyone is unique. So if someone is uncomfortable, remove themselves from the space. Okay.
Yeah.
And you just either go to family for overnight while it's being done, or put it in one area of the home and you stay in the next area. And
Okay.
we step people through how to plan it out.
Yeah. Okay. So what else do we need to know?
What else would you like to know? What else is pertinent for you?
I don't really know. I'm a great interviewer, aren't I? You were saying how mold is very interesting. What's interesting about it?
It's everywhere. And it's nature's recycling system. It's meant to be there. Its job is to break down organic compounds.
Okay.
So there are some molds we like: blue cheese, champagne, penicillin. They're all molds.
Okay.
There are the stronger molds out there, the Stachybotrys, the Chitonium, the Aspergillus, and they're present in the environment, but it's when we have more of them in the house than outside that's the issue. And people, so I get a bit passionate about the education, Bernadette, because we have a culture that believes it's okay to use bleach, because we've been told our whole lives that bleach gets things clean, right? I understand that. Bleach is actually a derivative of sodium hydrochloride. Sodium hydrochloride is a derivative of chlorine gas. You know the stuff they used in World War I that got chemical warfare banned? That stuff. When you buy bleach, it's 95 to 97% water and 3% sodium hydrochloride. When you bleach something, it makes it transparent. So it hasn't gone anywhere. It just becomes invisible, which is why in 2 to 4 weeks it comes back. And you've also just given it a buffet lunch because you've doused it in water.
Okay. Okay. So don't bleach your mold.
No, do it, don't do it, don't do it.
So, what about dehumidifiers?
They're great. So what dehumidifiers are doing is pulling the water content out of the air, which is ideal. And I believe the maximum saturation point or the temperature that is the maximum temperature that water can be held in is 27 degrees. And it's brilliant with the right dehumidifier. And I'm not an expert in them as such.
Yeah.
But great to actually pull the moisture out of the air and keep the relative humidity down. And another interesting fact, every person in the house, you may or may not know this, adds 10 liters of moisture into the air.
Wow, I did not know that.
So when you have mom, dad, and 3 kids, you've got an extra 50 liters a day between breathing, between showers, between cooking. And we have 2 situations on mold. We have a lifestyle situation for mold, and we have a structural situation. So the structural is a hole in the roof, a leaking pipe. The lifestyle is I've got teenage kids that throw their towels on the floor and they leave them there. Or I have a culture that has me boiling and cooking things on the stove and I don't have ventilation in the kitchen, right? Everyone has their own unique way of being, and mold will grow where there's humidity and dust. So having a good cleaner becomes very important, because I understand everybody's busy. I get that.
Yeah.
But a good cleaner that goes, and windowsills, places where there's condensation, HVAC systems. HVAC systems should be cleaned once or twice a year by
What's
a
an
professional.
HVAC system? I don't know what that is.
Split heater air
Oh, okay.
conditioner. Yeah.
Yeah. Reverse cycle air conditioning. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And for anyone that's sensitive, and they know this because everyone knows when you're sensitive, using a HEPA filter in your vacuum to pick up the smallest of dust, very important. So there's a number of little things that people can do. And there's also a couple of products out there, Bernadette, if I'm allowed to refer to them.
Please. Yes.
There's a company called Right Flow, RITEFLO, that does air vents that you can manually install. And they've got a very elegant grid on them, different styles. But the air vent moves according to changes in air pressure. So you don't need any electricity to them. You would, and the gentleman is Mirko Nad that deals with this, so he can advise people. He's a builder himself, how and where to put them. But a handyman can install them, and you can actually get your airflow happening in the house. Because when you're using the older air systems, or the older vents, they're covered over, they're 100 years old, all of those things, these modern air vents are remarkable. They just work a treat. And the other thing that he has as well is a damp rod, which is actually a heating rod that you can put in your cupboards. And it uses 10 volts of electricity a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely safe. And it just warms the air up enough that the airflow happens and you won't get mold on your shoes or on your purse.
Okay.
So Right Flow has some really great products, and Mirko is a builder himself. So he goes out and he now remediates buildings. And there's a few that are coming into the group, and they're fabulous individuals that fix problems. So maybe another time we can expand on this chat, and I'd be so happy to connect you to people that do good work.
Amazing. And so with this Right Flow, are you talking about wall air vents? Yeah. Okay. So it's really interesting because we've got one half of the building industry wanting to go passive and seal up the houses. And so are you finding that there's a high incidence of mold in those types of houses?
Unfortunately, 47% of homes in Australia have mold, old and new. And when they're passive and they've got a closed air ventilation system, if it's not clean air, it can be a very unhealthy situation.
Okay. Okay.
Because all that happens is you have unclean air
Yeah.
being recycled. So
Wow.
it goes into the air vents, it goes into this. The split systems are one of the first places to test
Yeah.
because it's an issue.
And so when you say one of the first places to test the filter, is that what you're testing?
There's actually a damp coil. There's a rod inside the split system that you just go and do a surface test more often than not, get the results from a lab.
Okay.
We can do testing as well, and we work with a global lab that specializes in mold. Because funnily enough, although you and I are learning more about it by the minute, there's a lot of people that don't know a lot about mold. So
Yes, I get that. Yeah.
yeah. And in the building trade, how they store their materials becomes seriously of interest. Because if you put structure in place and use materials that are saturated with water and dampness, you are building a nightmare. So that's
Wow.
more your side than mine.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you for coming on because that's really useful. Just one last question.
Sure.
Oh, actually two.
You're
First one
allowed.
is, and you may not be able to answer this,
Mm.
what would be the most common first sign that someone is having a negative health event from mold?
So the first, oftentimes, everyone's individual. Okay, so I put that as a disclaimer. But itchy eyes, chest issues, coughing, a cold that never goes away, migraines, anxiety, depression, eczema, anything to do with breathing. And one of the things they can take note of, do they feel better when they go out of the building?
Okay.
So when they go away for a couple of days and they go, oh, isn't that nice? I'm breathing better. I'm this, I'm that. It's not just that they're hopefully away having a good time. It's the fact they're in clean air.
Okay, thank you for that. And the second question is, what is the most surprising situation you've come across in your work with mold?
I think it was probably the most shocking situation. So here's the rule of thumb. When you can see 1 inch of visible mold, you're looking at over 50 million mold spore. When you've got half an A4 page of visible mold, you have a problem. When you have visible mold the size of an indoor door, you should be in full PPE and calling an expert. You should not be living there, right?
Yeah.
I went into a bathroom that was being treated, and there was mold from the top to the bottom to each side. We had to put 2 bottles of oil in. It needed to be scrubbed within an inch of its life. We had the full PPE that we wear when we do the cleans. And there was nothing gracious about full PPE. It is as ugly. You look like you're walking on the moon, man. And I was never more grateful to have full PPE and know that it was protecting me, even after dumping the oil in, because I know the oil will kill it in the air, which is really dangerous. But when you're scrubbing up the mold spore, and people live in that, Bernadette, this is not okay. This is not okay. We need to help people with the tools to actually engage with this. This is why I'm so really happy to have this conversation. Thank you for the time. And thank you for recognizing mold's an issue. And hopefully for some of your people, this plant-based solution will give them choices. Because that's what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Nora, if someone wanted to learn more, how could they get in touch with you?
So they can call me on my mobile. I'm Sydney based and I do answer my phone.
Amazing.
They can email me. And we're a bit of an odd company, Bernadette, because it's Nature's Defense with a C, DEFENCE.co. So I'm very trendy in my URL, right? My marketing team is very happy with me. We're very trendy. Confuses everyone. And we're Defense with a C, and it's Natures with an S. So they can send me, and I'm an Norah as well. I started out in Canada, and that's the way we spell it there. So phone,
problem.
email, go to the website, reach out. Very happy to help.
No problems. And we will make sure that your details are in the show notes so that listeners are able to contact you directly. And I am sure that this has been very valuable to our audience because, as I say, it's something that's on all of our minds because we're coming across it quite regularly in our projects. And yeah, so
well, very happy to help because I love what you're doing. I'm so impressed by it.
Well, thanks very much, Norah. I appreciate that.
This is the She Renovates podcast. To discover how to harness the power of renovating, check out theschoolofrenovating.com.